Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. So in today's video we'll be recreating this beautiful blouse here. So let's get right into the tutorial for today. So the first measurement I'll be getting is my chest line measurement of 8.25 inches, then my apex of 10 inches, my underbust of 13 inches, and my blouse length of 17 inches. Then I'll go ahead and mark the same point on the other side so I can get a straight line. After that, I'll be labeling each of the lines so we don't mix them up. The next thing I'll be marking now is my shoulder measurement divided by 2. So I'll be marking that on my chest line and on my shoulder line. Then draw the armhole line. Okay, so now I'll be getting my bust span measurement of 4 inches. I'll mark that on my apex and also on my blouse full length. Then I'll draw a straight line. I'll be marking that intake of 1 inch on both sides of this bust span line and connect it back to the apex. So you can see what we have. The next thing I'll be doing now is to get my neckline of 3 inches by 3.25 inches. Then I'll be getting my shoulder slope by coming down by 1 inch from my armhole line to get my shoulder slope. Now I'll be extending my shoulder neckline, to 4 inches by 3.5 because the neckline is like a boat neckline. So this is what we have. Then I'll be getting my armhole curve by dividing my armhole line into 2. I'll come in by 1/2 inch. Then I'll mark my bust measurement divided by 4, which is 10. Then I'll connect all the points together using my pattern curve. So this is what we have. The next thing I'll be doing, I'll be imputing my waist measurement of 8 inches. Then I'll be replacing my dart of 2 inches by the side also. Now I'll be marking my bust dart of 1 inch. I don't want this blouse to be too copy, so I'll be using 1 inch and I'll connect that to the apex, to the bust span line rather. So now I'll be coming down by 1 inch for my back pattern. I'll draw a straight line. Then I'll mark my chest line of 8.25 inches and my blouse full length of 16 inches for the back length of my blouse. Then I'll draw a straight line. The next thing I'll be getting is my shoulder measurement of 8 inches on my chest line and on my shoulder line so I can get my armhole line. Then my waist measurement, I'll come in by 0.75 so I can avoid zipper bulge. I'll connect that to the shoulder. Then I'll mark my waist measurement. So there's no dart at the back of this dress, so I won't be adding 1 inch for that. I'll add my bust measurement divided by 4, which is 10 inches, and I'll connect it like so. Next thing I'll be doing now is to mark 1.25 above the full length of my blouse for the opening at the back of the blouse. So this is what we have. Then I'll mark my neckline of 3 inches, of my basic neckline of 3 inches. I'll be getting my shoulder curve, so shoulder slope. Then I'll mark the actual neckline I want to use for this blouse, which is 4 inches by 1.5. So this is what we have. Then I'll get my armhole curve by dividing my armhole line into 2. Then I'll connect it like so. This is what we have. I'll be separating the front and the back pattern. So for the front pattern now, I'll be moving the dart on the lower part of my pattern. I'll be moving it to the bust side, to the bust dart, as you can see. So I'll be slashing through the bust that so I can have a flat pattern. So you can see when I crease it, if I don't slash it through, the pattern will not relax. So to make that pattern relax, I have to slash through the bust that, then tape down that on the lower side of my pattern. So as you can see, as I've taped it, the bust that open up more. I'll go ahead now and add my sewing allowance on my pattern, so I don't have to add it on the fabric when cutting. So I'm putting paper under so I can add my sewing allowance to this bust that area. I'll be adding a sewing allowance of 1/2 inch. So when sewing now, we will not have any dart on the lower part of our blouse. We will only be having a dart on the bust side. So this is what we have. Then I'll be creasing these parts and using my tracing wheel to connect the allowance points together, so I know how I'm going to cut that part. So you can see when I crease my bust that I'm having a fullness on the bust area of my pattern. So this is how our blouse is going to be after sewing. So I'm using my tracing wheel now to mark the dots, so I can see how, because that part is not going to be straight, that's why we need to trace it out. I'll add my sewing allowance of 1/2 inch, then I'm going to cut out. I'm just going to extend my pattern paper a little bit so I can get my full, so I can add my allowance on my shoulder line. Okay, so this is what we have. So for the back block now, I'll be adding my sewing allowance also round my pattern. And I'm going to cut out. So I'm also going to be cutting out the 1.25 inches I marked on the lower part of my pattern. I'll be cutting it out, but I'm first going to label it so I don't turn the pattern upside down when cutting. So I'll label the up, the zipper side, the down, and the side of the pattern. Then I'll also add 1/2 inch sewing allowance on both sides. Then I'll be using 1.5 yard of this Mikado fabric here. I'll place all my patterns on it, and I'm going to be cutting. So now there's no need to add sewing allowance when cutting out my pattern, because I already added it when cutting on my fabric, because I already added it on my pattern. So I'll just go ahead and cut the front and the back piece. So this is for the back. I'll cut out the back also. So guys, if you've not subscribed yet to my channel, what are you waiting for? Kindly click the subscribe button below and also the notification bell so you get updated anytime I post a video on this channel. Thank you. Now I'm going to be cutting facing for this so I can turn my neckline. So this is the facing for the front neckline. I'm going to be chalking it so I know the front and the back. Then I'll remove my pins. Also chalk where my back of my pattern is. Then I'm going to sew the neckline and turn. I will also be sewing the bust darts with 1/2 inch. Then I'll be cutting the facing for the back pattern also. I'm going to label the zipper side and the back. I'll take out my pins, then turn my neckline with the facing like so for the both sides of my back pieces. So I'll also be cutting the lower part of my back. I'll be cutting 4 of these, 2 for the right side and 2 for the left side. And I'll also be labeling it so I don't mix up my pattern. So this is what we have, and I've gone ahead to sew my front. You can see what we have here. Now I'm going to cut out like about 1 inch of a long piece of fabric, so I can use it as a bias to turn the lower part of my blouse. So like I'll be turning it like this, like a bias to pipe the lower part to finish the hem. So my back pattern now, I'll be cutting out 1/2 inch from the bottom part for the opening on the back of my blouse. So you can see how I'm marking it. I'll be cutting this out now. So that part will be open. I'll place my pattern on my back fabric and cut out the 1/2 inch opening. Now this opening starts 1 inch after the zipper at the center back and starts at the side of my blouse after the sewing allowance. Then I'll use my strip of fabric to turn it like this. So now from the zipper part of my fabric of my pattern, I'll be marking my zipper allowance of 1 inch and 1 inch extra. So that is where the lower part will start from. Then on the side also, I'll be marking my sewing allowance of 1.5 inch away. So I'm going to pin. Then on this zipper side, the lower piece of fabric will be climbing the upper bodice a bit. So you can see what we have. So I'm done doing that now. You see the opening we have here. Then I'll be putting the front part, so I'm closing the side allowance and also the shoulder using 1/2 inch. So I've done that now. The next thing I'll be doing, I'll be fixing my zipper. Then I'll cut my sleeve, a short sleeve with armhole curve of 10 inches and sleeve length of about 9 inches. Plus sewing allowance of 2 inches, that is 11 inches. Now I'm going to cut out. I'll be cutting 2 of these for the right sleeve and the left sleeve. So then I've gone ahead to fix it, and this is what we have here. So now I'll be cutting out the lower parts, the ruffles at the front of my blouse of about 10 inches. I'll mark it straight all the way, then cut out. I'll be marking cutting out two of this piece of fabric, and I use the full length of the Mikado fabric for the pleats, for the ruffles at the front. So I'm going to sew it and turn it out from the side. So I've gone ahead to sew both sides, and I brought it out from the side. So I'm measuring what I have on the lower part of my blouse, which is 16 inches. So that means at the end of these ruffles, we must have 16 inches so we can place it back on the front of our blouse. Now I'm marking 2 inches all the way straight down. So that is where we'll be sewing on after doing our pleats. So I'm going to be pleating my fabric like this. So you can watch this carefully to see how I'm pleating it. So it's basically a kissing pleat I did here. If we know how to do a kissing pleat, that's what I did here. So after pleating, I'll pin. I'll pleat again. So it's like an inward pleat, then an outward pleat. If you look carefully, I'll take it in. Then I'll bring it out again and pin. So I'm going to go ahead and do this, after which I'll measure it to ensure I have 16 inches when I'm done with this pleat. So it must be 16 inches so that it aligns with our blouse, the waist on our blouse. So I'll keep on doing this. So I'll measure what I have here, and I have 10 inches. So I need to do 6 more inches, and this is what we have, 16 inches of these ruffles. So I'll go ahead now and put this on my blouse and sew on the 2 inches I marked down. So I'll be sewing this at the tip of the blouse, and this is what we have. Our blouse came out so well. Bye for now.